Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you with X Factor number 69. This is part 3 of 4 of the Muir Island saga, and this is a great comic book, guys. The Muir Island saga was 4 issues, I believe. It ran through Uncanny X-Men 278, 279, X Factor 69, Uncanny X-Men 280, and then X Factor number 70, where they introduced Peter David on the X Factor book. And oh man, if you guys would love to see the Muir Island saga, let me know down in the comments below and I'll do the other 3 issues. Man, was this so good. This had everything that you want in a comic book. And I mean, look at that, guys, $1. Nowadays, $5 for a book like this, and it's just like, so you get a whole lot of bang for your buck in this, plus an absolutely gorgeous rendered cover, even though it is a little misleading because this doesn't happen in the book, sadly. But that's okay, because it builds up to what this story is about. And what I like is right off the bat, we get this stakes. It says Washington, D.C., blind, unthinking, uncaring, unrelenting prejudice has gripped the nation's capital. Some would say it's been brewing for decades. Others will swear it happened overnight. And so we hear with Val Cooper, who is the mutant liaison for the U.S. government. She was the one that tasked Mystique's team, which, the Mutant Liberation Front or whatever they were called. And then when they fell through, she started kind of working with Cyclops and whatnot for the most part. And you kind of think the way she's talking, you're sort of like, well, who's she talking to? You think it's the president since this is Washington, D.C. But then you turn the page and you get this beautiful double-page art. And you come to find out that it's the original 5 X-Men, who at this time are X Factor. And before we go any further, let's talk about who made this. This is Fabian Nicieza, with lots of help writing. Willis Patachio doing the penciling. Task Force X, which the Suicide Squad's inking. If you guys know back in the day who the inkers that in Task Force X were, let me know, because I tried looking it up and I have no idea. And then Michael Heisler doing the lettering, Dana Moorehead doing the colors, Bob Harris was the riot control, and Tom DeFalco was the riot control controller. I miss when the editors would kind of get the fans in on the joke, so I kind of miss that. That's what I always loved about these two. But all-star cast on this book, guys, and then this was the print date on this was August 1991, which I said around this era was definitely the time to be alive as an X-Men fan. Now Val's talking to him, and she's like, it took some time to track you down to Worthington's Colorado retreat. We isolated ourselves for a reason, Val. Now, the reason for this was the events of Endgame, which I believe ran through, what was it? X Factor number... Ooh, I'm drawing a blank. I think it was 66, 67, and 68, which really is a sad story, and we will eventually go over because it covers the events of what happens to Nathan Summers, and it is just really a great story, equally deserving with this issue as well. Now, Jean notices a gunshot, and I love the way they just, the canted, messed up panel that, cow, and X Factor, the original 5 X-Men, jump into action. And that is just some great work by Patachio there. It's like, the art team did an absolutely amazing job. And, Scott just goes into the way he's supposed to, snapping the orders, riot control, get the gunman, da-da-da-da-da. And it goes off relatively quick. They're able to take out the gunman in a heartbeat in the midst of all this anger and prejudice going on. And, we don't even know why this is going on. And, Muty Scum, Taco Boy, what's I don't know. They just made me laugh a little bit just because the way it sounds. And then here's where the reunion happens with X Factor and their mentor. And at this point in history, Xavier could walk. I think it had something to do with the Shi'ar. I can't remember 100%. Let me know down in the comments. But you've come to find out, the Shadow King's behind it, and he's the one that's causing all this hatred, which segues in to Muir Island, where the Shadow King has set up base. And here, Rogue, Wolverine, and Forge are kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And Forge explains that he's created a electromagnetic scrambler gun. What it does is it messes up I keep wanting to say strong guy, the Shadow King's hold on people only for a few seconds before Forge hits you with this, what is it called, microscopic neurosynaptic buffer. And it's a mouthful, I know. But he's able to get Wolverine and Rogue on his side. And that's what I've always loved about Forge, is he's handy. To me, he is definitely the Scotty of the X-Men universe. And oh man, this panel here of them just sitting around getting ready, Wolverine just has this itching, ready to get after him. Just beautiful, beautiful paneling. Especially here, this is old school X-Men. I mean, look at the feralness in Wolverine's face. And before they can make any other type of plans of how they're going to infiltrate and take down the Shadow King, we start seeing this, I can't do a squeal, but it's Banshee under the Shadow King's control. And I like how we go from colors to like this negative space of just oranges and blues. And again, the very messed up paneling. I don't know what that's called. If you guys know what that means, when they kind of get that real paneling going on, I've always loved it because it helps exacerbate this situation and really enhances it. And I like how Banshee's just basically a whole blur of action lines. That is awesome because it helps really enhance the totality of his sonic scream. And then this is where we finally get see the EMP Burst in action. And how I like how before, Banshee can really become aware of his own faculties, Wolverine grabs him and he goes, "Make a move. I make an incision." And the poor guy, he's just like, what is going on? But if Forge hadn't had Wolverine pin him down, then they'd be in a whole world of hurt. And this is where we kind of get a little bit of exposition dump, but it has to be done because, again, like I said, original old OG comic writers knew that every issue to an extent should be a jumping on point. That's why there's parts where people kind of stop and talk to one another to kind of give a little bit of exposition to catch the reader up. And that's why I've always appreciated that. They'd always say, see this issue if you want more. So that way at least you have a starting point, and then if you like what you read, you can go back. A lot of books don't really do that fluidly anymore. And here you come to find out who is the host for the Shadow King. I don't want to spoil that. And then the one thing I kind of gleamed on just a moment ago is this issue is definitely, where the X-Men, the original 5, this is their first reunion with Professor Xavier. And before there's any type of warm reception, they're already on their next battle or trial by fire, as they always called it. Now the 5 are leaving to go to Muir Island to meet up with Forge. And I like this panel. It's just like, these are not quite the circumstances under which I'd envisioned our reunion. And then Cyclops is like, we don't lead the kinds of lives in which things turn out as planned, sir. And then he references Endgame. He goes, I've heard about your son, Nathan. I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry I never had the opportunity to see a child I would like to call my grandchild. And it's true, because, Xavier saved Scott from the orphanage where he was all alone after Alex left. So this, in a sense, is his father. It's the only father he knew before he met Corsair in his adulthood. And here, again, you see the 5 working together. There's the access hatch we're looking for. This is our where we're going to enter. Warren, scout ahead. Let's see what the darkness holds. And then Beast. This is the Beast I miss. Sanzu, the art of war. Do not attack an enemy who occupies key ground. Do not allow your formations to become separated. Are you employing questionable tactics, Hank? According to Sun Tzu, we're wearing spandex, you know. According to me, let's kick some glutinous Maximus. Because even though Hank was always smart, he knew how to be witty. And that's what I always loved about this beast. That's why I don't like this modern Krakoa beast, because it's not the character that I loved growing up. Now as Warden scouts ahead, we see Moira, Madrox, Psylocke, Gambit, and Jubilee. And it's not really clear if they're under the Shadow King's control or not. I think it is, but I feel like Nikezia left it open to interpretation. Same thing with Siren. And I like how Hank just grabs her mouth and he goes, "Excuse me, Teresa dear, but for the sake of your daddy Banshee, I'd rather not get you rather you not get bruised in the battle." And then there's a what do you call it? There's a twist, as M. Night Shyamalan would say. I don't want to give it away, but what I like is this. There's a sort of like connection that's severed. And I like how Legion goes from looking normal to, again, kind of like this Bill Sienkiewicz page type look, where he's just crazy and twisted and manipulated, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal. Because that's how Legion is, because he's multiple personalities, and each one uses one of his mutant abilities. And that's what makes him such a danger, because he's unstable, and he's, you know, like a supreme omega level mutant. And the battle continues. I don't want to give away any more of that, but I do just want to show the final page. And I'll tell you why here in a second, because there's a voice that says, "And finally, so are you." And we just get this great explosion look, just all those bright, beautiful colors to make this looks so tragic. Now, look at how the writers used to get you hyped. And next issue, a special epilogue introducing new writer Peter David, and featuring more surprises than you could believe possible for a buck. As if this page weren't enough. Again, for $1. All this action, heartfelt moments, you're getting stakes, drama, suspense. This is how you comic. Now, one thing that I always loved about Fabian Nikezia, and on that same line of thought, Jeff Lodell, is yes, one of the most prolific comic book writers of our time, in my opinion, that really kind of set the precedent for modern comics was Chris Claremont. Yes, you know, Stan Lee blazed the trail, and there's so many that I can't think of off the top of my head, but in terms of like one writer for one book for so many years, Claremont did that. And what I like about Fabian Nikezia is I feel like he sort of studied what Claremont did and was able, in a sense, to take his style, flesh it out, and again, like I've always said, Chris Claremont always used to get a little wordy, but that's okay, because as I said, it meant something. Nikezia, I feel like he kind of took Claremont's style, was able to tell a story without getting as wordy. So yeah, there's few things that do get lost in translation, but I feel that's why I've always appreciated that Nikezia and Lobdell for the 90s, for the most part, were able to handle the X-Men franchise, because they saw what Claremont did back in the day. And that's why I appreciate that, they kind of helped blaze the 90s trail. Peter David hopped on and made X Factor an absolutely awesome selling book. And then, of course, Lodell did his best to navigate all the stuff that Marvel wanted. He was able to pull out Onslaught and make it a coherent story just off of a off-the-cuff idea. So yeah, this was definitely, the 70s, 80s, and 90s were definitely a time to be an X-Men fan, guys. I remember, as I said, I got to X-Men in the 90s, so I was kind of like on that tail end, but still, it was such a great time. And I wish I would have gotten this book when I was younger. But nonetheless, it's in my collection now, and love it. Speaking of which, if you've enjoyed this comic book, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if you can pick up a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, We really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like and share the video. It helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. You can come to the channel, and we love to have a dialogue with y'all and hear your feedback down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.